So my overall theme for this guy for this morning has been solidifying his place command, and particularly at home, his owners want to be able to use place command when people are coming in the door, because he has a big issue with rushing the door and sometimes being a little bit aggressive when people come in the door. And we have to recognize that in that context, there are conflicting motivations. So there's whatever motivation that we have towards getting him and keeping him on place, and that could be, treats, that could be our e-collar, whatever it may be. But then there's also the motivation of that person at the door, right? That external motivation that's coming from over there. And he's getting pulled, it's sort of in those two different directions. And that's kind of what we're dealing with. So to sort of drill him on that, I can actually use food to help develop his ability to think clearly when there's conflicting motivation present. And here's how I'm going to do that. Zeus, come here. Now there might be some preliminary work here, because I don't have a lot of history with this guy, so I don't know how good he is at holding a sit, but I kind of need him to be able to hold a stationary position for a minute, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him in a sit where the place is right there. Behind him, I'm going to put a little pile of food. Okay? So I want him to know that that food's there. Oh, sit. And now, knowing there's a pile of food there, but I want him to go here, he needs to move away from that motivation to get to place. Okay? This could be a challenge for some guys. I'm going to start my e-collar down low because this is a new exercise for him. Zeus, place. Yes, good job. So he nailed it. Now, I can make this more challenging a variety of ways. It's one of the benefits of using food is it's pretty adaptable for me. So I can make the food closer to where he is. That's one way to make it more challenging. I can also use higher value food, something smellier, right? That might be a little bit harder for him to pull his focus away from. Break. Break. The other thing that'll happen is if this food is always off limits the entire time I'm doing this drill, it's gonna get easier and easier and easier for him to ignore it, because he's like, oh, I don't ever get that food. So eventually, once he kind of gets the idea here, I'm gonna start rewarding him for going there by releasing him and letting him have this food. The more that food is actually in play, the harder it is for him to not pay attention to it, if that makes sense, right? Now, right now, between each repetition, I'm actually gonna pick it up, because I have found that the act of placing down the food makes it more interesting, right? If it's just kind of sitting there stationary, they, again, can sort of ignore it a little bit. So, I'm not super concerned, again, always thinking about goals. What's my goal here? My goal is to do this place command drill. So I'm not super concerned with how well he holds the sit while I'm putting the food down. And if you notice when I did that, I didn't use the sit command. I just placed him in a sit. And that's for two reasons. One is I don't want to have to then get sidetracked if he breaks position. Now I got to fix this whole thing, right? And that derails me from my overall goal. The other thing is, depending on, and again, I didn't do most of his preliminary training, so depending on how much that sit has been drilled as a sit stay, if he's in that sort of stay position, that could also make it hard for him. It's like one more thing that makes it hard for him to move to the place, right? So just sort of physically placing him in that position. Here, buddy. Not time to get cozy. Place. Yes, good job.
Dash.
Okay, think about it a little bit there. I did sort of increase challenge a little bit by putting myself farther away, right? So if he feels like I'm still looming over him with a short leash, he goes, there's no way I'm getting that food, like, dude's gonna stop me. But if I'm way back here and the leash is slack, he may think that he can pull a fast one and have some opportunity, right? So again, there's things we can change that will affect how challenging it is for the dog. Okay, but this is going pretty good. Break. Good job, buddy.